Holy cow, guys, you're not going to believe this one. I mean, good Lord. This is just getting completely ridiculous. Guess who's back in the news? Yep, you guessed it, the Village of Dolton. Yeah, so I thought I've seen like every excuse in the book for accountability, and then this comes up. And it kind of takes it to a whole nother level. And it's complicated, okay? It is complicated. There's a twist in here, and we'll get into all of that after we lay out the facts of what is going on. Apparently, the Village of Dolton is now suing the Fifth Third Bank, all right? Because they're saying Fifth Third Bank should have stopped SuperMayor Tiffany Henyard from going on all those spending sprees. And I think where they believe that they're in the right and have the ability to sue is related to the whole signature thing. You remember way back when, you have to go back to my old videos in the archives. They had the deal where they were requiring 2 signatures on the checks. They made a change in their procedure, but then Tiffany kept rubber stamping those checks. And she and the village administrator, or either the clerk, I think at the time, they were signing off on those checks, and they just continued the spending spree, going shopping like it was going out of style. Okay, so that's where it kind of gets murky, all right? But anyway, let's check out what WGN News had to say, because there's some good comments in this news story, so cut to the clip.
WGN Investigates has new details on a lawsuit in South Suburban Dolton. It's against the village's bank, claiming the bank should not have paid out money authorized by former Mayor Tiffany Henyard. And this is not a small amount. Henyard has been out of office for 7 months, but the team that replaced her says she left Dolton in deep debt. This lawsuit attempts to recoup some of that money. The village is accusing Fifth Third Bank of failing to follow a 2021 village resolution passed by trustees who were concerned about Henyard's spending. It required all payments to have 2 signatures, Mayor Henyard's and the village clerk. Instead, the lawsuit says Fifth Third paid out more than $1.8 million in taxpayer money with only Henyard's signature. Fifth Third Bank acted in bad faith because it had actual knowledge that Tiffany Henyard was violating her fiduciary duties in stealing and/or misappropriating public funds. That's what the lawsuit claims. The bank declined to comment. That lawsuit does not make specific claims that funds were misused, just that they should not have been paid with only Henyard's signature. Now, keep in mind, this time period covers Henyard's rocky final years in office as she and trustees struggled for control. It was also, as WGN Investigates, exposed how Henyard and her allies spent more than $100,000 on travel. Village money and resources also went to Henyard's questionable cancer charity, self-promotion, meals, and much more. Henyard lost re-election in a landslide last spring. The new mayor says he's been working to dig the village out of debt. Now, to be clear, Henyard is not named as a defendant in this lawsuit, and despite an FBI investigation, she has not been charged with wrongdoing. Her attorney tells me Henyard has, quote, moved on with her life, and the chaos and mismanagement of Dolton at the hands of the Board of Trustees caused damages that will continue to reverberate for years to come.
Okay, so now we know the facts of the story, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens when the lawsuit unfolds. It's just an argument. We don't have to say this is alleged or anything like that. This is actually happening, okay? It's happening. But here's the thing. They're suing the bank because of something that they failed to do, which was stopping Tiffany Henyard from spending up all the money. And so it's like saying, okay, we can't manage our mayor, so we think you should do it. And here's the rules of how it should work. And then they come back and say, well, you didn't follow our rules, so we're going to sue you and hold you accountable. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know what to think about that. I really don't. And I want you to chime in as we go along through some of these details, okay? Because like I said, I can see their point. But this is where it gets sticky. So they changed the rules where they said you got to have the 2 signatures. And it's up to the village. It's up to a local government who sets up a bank account to decide on what the rules of use are. Does it have to have one signature? Can you use a stamp? Does it have to have 2 signatures, 3 signatures? They set up the rules, and then you set up the bank account. And then the bank will abide by that. So to a certain degree, the bank says, these are the rules of this account. We got to follow this. And maybe they can be held responsible if they don't follow that. But with all the mess that was going on between the board and between Tiffany Henyard, how in the hell would it even be possible for a bank that is not sitting in on the monthly board meetings, okay, not knowing all of the facts of the matter, where all they can possibly maybe know about is the accusations going back and forth? They don't know who the one is doing the dirty dealings, right? And then they're being told, here's the rules of use for this bank account. So can they really say, yeah, we're going to shut down your mayor, right? When maybe the mayor is in their ear saying, hey, it's the board that's doing the dirty dealings. It's the trustees. They're the bad ones. They're trying to change the rules, but these are the rules, and here's how it was originally set up. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? Now, for all of us everyday people, when we overdraft our accounts, we get those big $33 bounce check charges. I used to get those back in the days when I was broke and couldn't keep up with my own accounting, and I used to get so mad. And at one point, I had so many bounce check charges, I stormed into the bank and I demanded a refund of a year's worth of bounce check charges. Now, they felt sorry for me. At first, they said no, but then I was able to get them to refund half of all of my check charges. And it was because of the order that you present the checks, where, say, one check comes in and takes it into the negative, the next 10 bounce. But you could have passed these first 9, and then the big one comes in, and that should have been the one that bounced. So then you get 9 check fees, okay, instead of 1 check fee. So that's kind of what we as regular people have to go through. And we make our arguments. We argue with the bank all the time, but ultimately, it is on us. We are the ones responsible for balancing the checkbook. So what makes this so difficult, convoluted, murky, sticky, touchy is that you've got a board of trustees, a village administrator, a clerk, and a mayor. All right? So I'm kind of thinking to myself, it ain't up to the bank. It's not the bank's responsibility to sit there and decide who's right and who's wrong. It's not in their job description to babysit the Village of Dolton and say, all right, we're going to take his word over her word, or we're going to take the board, the trustee's word over the mayor, or vice versa, or we're going to listen to the village administrator. They don't have the time to do that. They're supposed to be processing checks and checking account balances and doing the transactions and servicing the customers. They can't do investigations on how local governments are operating, because it's not one single person. It's not as simple as you wrote a check greater than the balance of your account. This is a lot worse. Multiple people in charge of finances for a local government. And the money was there when she went willy-nilly spending. So how's a bank going to say, we're not going to honor this check when the balance is there? I don't know. I would sure love to hear your thoughts about that. But you know what? This is not just about the Village of Dolton. Guess what, guys? This goes on all across the country. All sorts of local governments have this same problem, where you get a bunch of people that can't agree, all right? And then one side accuses the other side of reckless spending or unauthorized transactions. And then they say, well, no, this was authorized, or this is within the rules where we can exercise our judgment on how to spend. Happens everywhere, okay? Dolton is not an exception, even though we know that there was a whole lot of craziness, a lot of crazy analyzations going on with the way that the mayor was going about handling the finances and spending the money. Now, who is the person responsible for the situation in Dolton? Now, we said that with an individual, it's my responsibility when I'm bouncing checks. Now, how about here? Is it the Village of Dolton? Is it the Board of Trustees? Is it Tiffany Henyard, the former mayor? You think that she should be dragged into the lawsuit? I'll tell you what, who's ultimately responsible? It's the people. You know why? Because no matter how this plays out, it's the residents that are going to foot the bill. That's right. They're the ones that are going to be paying for this in the long run, and they are the ones who voted her into office in the first place. You didn't just have the 1,000 or so people that voted for her. You had maybe 10, 15,000 people that sat on the couch and decided not even to go vote. So they're part to blame too. And then you even had people on the board of trustees that became her arch enemies that pushed her into the position. So it's your fault, all of you, for creating this situation because you did not vet Tiffany Henyard before she was in office. You did not look at her prior actions, her attitude, and her propensity to go off and go rogue, basically, to go completely crazy once she got ultimately in power. It's all of their fault, all right? And so I've got some questions that I would like to pose to you, and I want you to tell me in the comments. Let's take this to the courtroom, actually. Here we go. Okay, so this court is now in session, and I'm going to ask you, the jury, to come to a decision on these specific questions about this situation. Let me pull up the questions here. So question number 1, should former Mayor Tiffany Henyard be named in this lawsuit? Yes or no, and then explain your reasons why. Question number 2, are the banks regulated by the accounting standards of the village? Should they be held responsible? And should the village be able to get some of the money back? What are they going to do? Refund every check that Tiffany Henyard wrote with the one signature on it? What is your thoughts about that? They said that 2 signatures are required. So are the banks liable for this? Let me know your thoughts about that. And consider what I told you before, where from the bank standpoint, all they see is the mayor saying one thing, the trustees saying another, and then they have to decide, well, who is the one telling the truth? Who do we listen to? The next question I would like to ask you, did the Village of Dolton, the trustees, and the residents, did they let all of this go too far without figuring out a way to slam on the brakes? Forget the fact that they voted her in, but do you think that they allowed this to get too far out of hand? And the last question I have for you, I mentioned about the voters. Are the voters the ones who should be to blame, and the people who sat on the couch and the people who helped her to get into office? And if they are, do you think there is any financial remuneration that should be coming from the bank to the Village of Dolton? And how will they do that? And where will the money come from? I'll tell you what, this is a mess. This is a total mess. And I don't know how they're going to handle this one, but we'll watch it. We'll watch the developments, and I'll keep you updated along the way. That's all I got for this one. This is Carlton. I'm out.